Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Movies That Matter. I'm your host, Chris Flaherty. Hope you're doing well. It's been about 2 months since we've been in the podcast room. It's been a wild winter, and if the forecast is to be believed, this wild winter is far from over. But happy to be back in the podcast studio here at Burlington Cable Access, talking about a movie that we love and a movie that matters to us. And my guest is Mike Espejo, a Burlington native, BHS class of 1991. He's been on the Burlington Planning Board since 2019 and is currently running for Select Board here in the year of, I wrote 2021, but it's actually 2022. Mike, how are you?
Good, Chris. Thank you for having me. Very excited to talk about Ferris Bueller today.
I'm very excited to talk about Ferris Bueller as well, and I'm glad you're here. And I forgot in your introduction, you are on the BCAT Board of Directors, and this is kind of a crossover episode, folks. I know we're kind of jumping the shark. We're only 7 episodes in, but I think it's going to work because Mike was the very first podcast produced here at Burlington Cable Access Studio, the Pod Where It Happens. So this is like step 1 of the BCAT Podcast Avengers.
I love it. We're making our own MCU here at BCAT. Yeah, I'm also long overdue for a new podcast, but I'll be back Monday to record an episode for the first time in months too. So we're both picking it up. I'm glad to see.
Yeah, we were hibernating for a little bit. But yeah, Ferris Bueller, released June 11th, 1986, directed by the late great John Hughes, starring Matthew Broderick. Let's get right into it. Mike, in your own words, can you tell me what Ferris Bueller's Day Off is about?
It's about a teenager who looks like a case of the senioritis, and he takes a day off by skipping school for the 9th time in his apparently senior year, and he recruits some friends, and they have a rollicking good time off in the city of Chicago on their day off.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of a story that everyone can relate to. They want to skip school and just go have some fun, right? How did you first learn about this film? Did you see it in theaters? Did you watch it on TV? Word of mouth, word from a friend?
So I was trying to think about this in my preparation for today, talking with you about it. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to think of the first time I saw it and all that, and I couldn't remember. Mm-hmm. One thing I do remember is when I was younger, a teenager, I had a paper route. And on my paper route, I had this little book with a 3-ring binder. And each customer on the route had a card, and you would, when you collected the money for the route each week, you'd check off if they paid or not, or if they weren't home. And on the cover of this, my book for my paper route, I had a sticker, and it was the Ferris Bueller sticker, the one that said Leisure Rules with Ferris Bueller with Matthew Broderick with his arms behind his head. Uh-huh. And I was trying to think of where I got that sticker. It was either at like Bradley's or Zayre's or at the movies. Mm-hmm. And I remember that it was just kind of like a point of pride for me first getting that sticker. And I think that's how I learned about the movie. Mm-hmm. And just being, when I learned about Ferris and saw the movie eventually, became definitely a point of pride that I wanted to be like Ferris. So that's my first recollection of the movie was that sticker on my paper route book.
Very cool. I like how you said you wanted to be like Ferris because as I was watching it, and maybe this is a sign of my age, Ferris is not the greatest role model in the world. I mean, like, he's skipping school. He's a true. I'm definitely sounding like an old square right now. But anyway, so when you first saw the film, like, what stuck out to you?
I feel like Ferris was, I think I first saw the film, it came out, like you said, in 86, so I would have been 13 years old, and what stuck out to me was how cool Ferris was. I was probably a little younger than he was in the movie, but just, I mean, that's every kid's dream, right? School's a drag. You want to kind of skip school, drive around in a hot car and have a hot girlfriend and have a lot of fun and mess with adults. That's like every kid's like teenage dream, and that's why
right.
I think I wanted to be like him. As if I was ever a parent, I wouldn't want my kid to be like him, but as a kid, and I always still think like a kid because I think of myself as a kid, you wanted to be Ferris Bueller when you saw that movie.
Wow. You're really making me feel like the square because I'm like, this kid is a bad influence. And you're like, no, he's great.
That's fine. That's good.
So Mike's going to take over the podcast, and he's going to talk about this movie, and I'm just going to sit here and run the board. It's funny that you said you were 13 when you saw it because you're kind of the perfect audience. You were the perfect target audience for this movie because it was about kids wanting to rebel from school.
Absolutely. And yeah, maybe that's why I wanted to be Ferris Bueller so much, and maybe why I liked the movie so much is because I was, probably going to school instead of doing the fun things he was doing.
I had a very surreal introduction to this movie because I remember so vividly that every time I had a substitute teacher at Burlington High School, anytime they didn't want to teach us, they'd show us Ferris Bueller.
No way.
I swear to God, for 4 years of my life, I saw this movie in separate chunks. And it's just sort of poetic that a substitute teacher is showing kids this movie where a kid is skipping school.
Yeah, now back to your stance, is that the right movie to be? I mean, it's not educational. It's not it's not a good guide for a student. Why would you show that in a school?
I don't know. I guess it is a fun movie, and it's sort of wish fulfillment, to be able to skip school, do all these fun things and get away with it, right?
Absolutely.
And, I sort of tap it. Made this connection in my mind last night between Ferris Bueller and Marty McFly, where they don't love their situation, right? Neither of them. And they go on this wild adventure, and normally you would think the protagonist learns something and he goes back with a new appreciation of life. And you could argue that Marty definitely does, but I don't think Ferris learns anything in this movie.
No, I don't think so. He didn't learn anything. He just had a good time.
Yeah. But I think maybe that's not the point. Maybe Ferris is teaching us something,
Well, I mean, it's the quintessential line in the movie, and it's actually one I used at my high school graduation speech, and a friend reminded me of it just 6 weeks ago that I used it. Well, no, actually. Well, yeah, well, it's the line in the movie at the beginning where he says, life moves pretty fast.
Right.
If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. And that's the whole theme of the movie, right?
Exactly.
And that's a line that has stuck with me obviously since high school, but to live life to its fullest, to make the most of every day, even if you're doing something a little bit below board, as long as you're not hurting anyone, I guess. But that has always stuck with me. And, when I come to a point in my life where I'm trying to think of, should I go this way or that way, or come to fork or crossroads in lives, I think of Ferris Bueller and how fast life moves, and to make the most of every day, and to cherish the people in your life, and to cherish your relationships and moments, because we all don't know. Our time is limited. We don't know when our last day will be. So that's that takeaway I take from the movie.
That's amazing. Yeah, perfect. You couldn't have said it any better, I think. And I wanted to come back because you said you mentioned it in your high school speech. Were you valedictorian?
Class president. Class president.
I had no idea you were class president.
I was, yeah.
Wow. So Ferris was part of your graduation speech.
He was, yep.
And it was that quote.
That quote.
Wow. What? I guess that's kind of perfect because Ferris was also on the verge of graduation in this movie.
Yep.
Wow. That's really great. So obviously Ferris stuck out to you in the film. Were there any other characters that you really connected to you? Any characters that really stick out in your memory? I know there's a lot of great characters.
Yeah, there's so many great characters in this. And looking back at the cast list, it's an awesome cast. Looking back now, Jennifer Grey and Alan Ruck, and of course Matthew Broderick and Edie McClurg. I love the character of Cameron. I think we all have a Cameron in our life. Yeah. Or someone similar to Cameron, and if you don't, you're probably the Cameron in someone's life. But I was thinking about coming over here, was on this day off, did Ferris genuinely want Cameron to come, or did he just use Cameron for his car? Because Ferris said, I asked for a car, but I got a computer. Yeah. How's that being boarded under a bad sign? So I was thinking about it, and I think genuinely he did want Cameron to be part of the day. Yeah. And I don't think he was just using him for his car, even though that was effectively a help.
Have you, how much you know about behind the scenes, but apparently there was a deleted backstory for Charlie Sheen's character.
Okay.
He he was a friend of Ferris that Ferris tried to help, but obviously he went south because, he's in the police station for drugs.
Right.
And so, like, that sort of informs Ferris's motivation to, like, connect with Cameron and get him to do stuff so he doesn't end up like Charlie Sheen.
I didn't know that. And again, back to what a great cast.
Yeah.
And again, Ferris's line about Cameron, Cameron's so tight that if you stunk a lump of coal up his posterior,
you can say it, it's fine.
In 2 weeks, you'd have a diamond. And I always love how he said you'd have a diamond in that Matthew Broderick.
Oh, yeah. Matthew Broderick, he really nails Ferris, I think.
Oh, yeah, he does.
And Hughes, I guess, had him in mind for the character. And you can tell just because, like, the way his inflections with how he says everything, and he's perfect when he's talking like the fourth wall and stuff.
Yep.
Like it really is his definitive role, I think.
Absolutely. I think that's the first movie I ever saw that broke the fourth wall. Is
right.
That I was trying to think of a different one. The first time a protagonist is spoken to the audience.
Yeah, I can't think of anything other than like Deadpool that does that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even Deadpool, like, acknowledges Ferris. I don't know if you've seen Deadpool,
No.
but, like, the Deadpool essentially does the credit scene from Ferris, where he comes out and he's still, like, Ryan Reynolds has still got the full Deadpool costume on, but he's got the Ferris robe on. He's like, what are you still doing here?
Yeah.
So this film's definitely, like, stood the test of time. Yeah, I feel like I'm more of a Cameron than a Ferris.
He'll keep calling me. He'll keep calling me.
But he's great at impressions, so you know he has a fun side.
Yeah, yes, yeah. The scene where he pretends to be the police officer calling about getting Sloan out of school and all that is great.
Yeah, and I think Cameron is really important to the movie because I think the point of the movie is not for Ferris to learn something; it's something for us to learn. You live life to the fullest and stuff, and then you have Cameron, who hasn't really learned to live life to the fullest because he's lived under the strict rules of his father. So he sort of learns, like, once the car's destroyed, he's just like, eh. And then you have his sister, who sort of comes to his side at the end. Like, she's very anti-Ferris throughout the whole movie. And then once she meets Charlie Sheen, she starts to be a little reckless. That's art imitating life right there. Meeting Charlie Sheen and turning reckless.
That's a really great point. Is you made me just think of the movie is really Cameron's coming of age because the whole time it's Ferris orchestrating and planning, and it's not till the car goes through the back of the garage where Ferris is like, I'll take it, but and Cameron steps up and says no. I'm going to have a talk with Dad. I'm going to take this one. And Cameron, the real growth in the movie is Cameron.
Yeah, and like it always bothered me when we were young, but we never know what happens to Cameron. We don't know. Like Ferris runs home, and I mean, we can assume Cameron got chewed out.
Right.
That much we know, but we don't know what happened to him. It's sort of left for us to interpret how he's going to go forward.
Right.
And hopefully we think, like, now he's learned to, like, not take life so seriously that maybe he will have a better future, which is great, I think. I did want to talk about Ed Rooney for a bit. Ed Rooney, the supervillain principal, almost. When you were a young kid, I mean, obviously, like, when we're kids, it's sort of conditioned in us to sort of be intimidated by principals and teachers and authority figures. How did you as a 13-year-old respond to that?
To Ed Rooney?
Yeah, to Ed Rooney.
He just came off as the typical principal, and I love the way you say that. It makes me think of Edie McClure when she says, "Oh, Ed, you sounded just like Clint Eastwood just there." Yeah, I mean, Ed Rooney, he catches Ferris, and he's not fooled, and he's not his first rodeo, probably not his first delinquent kid. He catches him, and then Ferris, backdoors him with the call into the school, and then Ed loses his cool. But yeah, Ed Rooney was just a typical school authority figure, and he was sharp because he caught Ferris, wasn't fooled, and even that scene where he walks Sloan out and Ferris is going to pick them up. He says, he says a crazy line like
the whole thing about grief.
Yeah, he
like
says in choice of like nothing or grief, I'll take grief.
This old proverb that he pulls out of his posterior.
Yeah, so I get there's a soft side to Ed Rooney that he did realize that even though he was right, he thought he was wrong, but was still trying to comfort. I guess that's what makes the scene so great. Sloane about her fictitious dead grandmother. But Ed has a great line where he catches Ferris and he says, "Well, just produce a corpse and I'll dig up your daughter." And he said, "Roll." He has some great puns there with "roll her old bones on down," and it's new policy. And he was trying to mess with Ferris.
That moment where he's like, he thinks he's caught Ferris at that point because he's talking to Cameron on the phone, pretending to be Sloane's father. That moment where Grace picks up the phone and there's like, "Hey, it's Ferris Bueller. Can I talk to?" The music and then the camera movements, like I got secondhand anxiety for him there.
That's quintessential John Hughes right there. That's
right.
Wonderful filmmaking. Just that sequence, the shot of the phone, the old school phone with the light up buttons,
the light,
and just flashing, and that's Ferris, and the anxiety that grows with each flash. That's vintage John Hughes. That's great filmmaking. That scene.
It's like a metaphor for Ed Rooney's heart monitor there.
Absolutely.
I wanted to talk about John Hughes in a second, but yeah, Ed Rooney just like, obviously he's an exaggerated version of a principal, but you do feel bad for him because he's just trying to do his job, and this kid is destroying his life. But at the same time, for a principal to like focus on one kid that much it's super villainy. It's crazy.
Yeah, he was a problem child 9 times, and as he's looking at the computer, Ferris is breaking in and lowering that number. But maybe Ferris, we don't know the backstory. Maybe Ferris has been giving him problems for 4 years. We don't know. That's
what I love too. That like there's sort of like there's a lot of lore in this film that we don't see, but we learn through like dialogue and actions. Because from what we can understand, Rudy and Ferris have been going at this for a while. And this film is sort of like the culmination of their battle.
The final battle,
right? And then, like, I love, like, the whole culture. Again, John Hughes, like, really captures the culture of that youth. And, like, the kids going around saying, "Save Ferris" and stuff. And, like, everyone's, like, spreading rumors. And how these rumors even came to be is just outrageous sometimes. Right. And, again, I'm showing my age or lack thereof. They're on the payphones in the high school. And I'm like, they're letting them use phones in school? Which we've come full circle now because I see kids using phones in their school. And I'm like, I got mine taken away in high school. So it's crazy. John Hughes really, like, tapped into that point in, like, a person's life, And I sort of picked up on this when I was watching Home Alone. Like, he really knows how to tap into those inner desires of young people. Like, who wouldn't want to be left home alone to do whatever they want? Who wouldn't want to have the ultimate day off from school? Like, he really knew what was going on up here.
Yeah, and he made a great genre of these type of movies and really captures view of the world from a young person's perspective.
Did you watch a lot of John Hughes films when you were younger?
A few. Actually, I don't know if I should admit this on a movie podcast. I've never seen Home Alone. It's on the list.
Folks, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
But I did watch a lot of his movies, not as many as I should, obviously, but he really does capture what it's like to be a young person and how you feel, and can put it. I mean, there's like different levels, right? You can understand it, you can capture it, and then there's another. Filmmaking is putting that on the screen and making it believable, and
right.
That's a true. I mean, mark of a true director.
Yeah, even like with the Breakfast Club, like he gets all the different, archetypes of teenage life, and you feel for every one of them. In typical John Hughes fashion, like it's a comedy, but then there's like that brief moment of darkness, right? Where like Anthony Michael Hall has his. You've seen The Breakfast Club, right?
I have.
Okay.
I can stay.
Okay, you can stay. You can stay. I mean, I can't even give you flack for that. I watched it in college, very late in life, and for a paper too. So I was required to watch it. But anyway, yeah, there's like always that moment in a John Hughes films where like it's always full of like levity and stuff, and then there's like that dark moment. And then I was watching it last night and I was trying to figure out what the dark moment in Ferris Bueller was, and then we're going back full circle. It's sort of Cameron's like catatonic state, or even like his, not even his catatonic, his like breakdown when the car odometer is not going back.
Yep.
Yeah.
And yeah, when they finally figure that out, and he's, they get him by the pool, and he just sits there and throws himself into the pool, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the dark moment, right? It's the Cameron breakdown.
Mm-hmm. And that, again, that's John Hughes, like really, like not navigating, but like perfectly illustrating life at that age, We've talked a lot about the heavy stuff. What are some like fun, lighthearted moments, quotes that you really stuck with you?
Well, I mean, you have to go to the there's so many. You have to go to the musical number, the twist and shout screen and scene where, again, he starts, again, the Cameron theme. He starts that with he dedicates it to Cameron. He says, "This one goes out to a guy who didn't think we were going to see anything fun today, and this Cameron Fry, this one's for you." And actually, that's before Donkashane. Yeah. And then he continues it into Twist and Shout, and I love that number so much. I've watched it so many times that I was thinking about it. You know how when you watch, like, I guess on a DVR, when you can rewind something, but you can only do it for like a certain amount of time, like an hour before the movie advances, and you can't go back any further if you're watching live TV. I've watched that scene so many times once that it forced me to move on. Like, I rewound and watched it probably for a straight hour. Just looking at every nuance, every face, it's just such a fun, that's like I think like a moment in life we all strive for, to be that on top of the world, that having that much fun and carefree and in the middle of a crowd singing Twist and Shout, downtown Chicago, people on the side of the road dancing, you have window washers up and doing the twist, and it's just a great scene, just a quintessential scene in the history of film, I think. It's just so much fun.
It is a classic, and like you said, it's infectious. All those good vibes like pour through the screen to you, and like I remember someone told me that there's extras in the scene that weren't like extras, like the construction workers you see dancing. They're not part of the movie. They were working in Chicago, and like
while they were filming,
they caught the vibe and stuff. And John Hughes is like, film them. They're having a good time.
Awesome.
I think that scene is sort of like a perfect emblem of Ferris's character, right? Like, he wants everyone to have a good time, to slow down and enjoy life, and like that's peak Ferris right there. He I don't know, how do I say this? He stages a coup and takes over a parade.
Yeah, right.
And the whole parade just goes with it.
And they love it. And he rocks it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's awesome.
And that's the movie right there. I think you nailed it. Like, spreading like good vibes and enjoying life, and it's almost like what movies are meant to do. It's for us to like escape and enjoy life a little while.
It's what makes it matter.
We still have more time to go, but I mean, I guess I can edit that part to the end. But
another thing I love, I have to bring this up so we don't forget, is the line where he impersonates that he's Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago, to get into the ritzy restaurant. And they, again, do the phone trick. Ferris is the master of the phone trick, phony phone calls.
Yep.
But the line he says to the snooty waiter is something that another, like, if we have like a list of like postulates or Mike's commandments, like this is, other than life moves pretty fast, this is also on there. Just a classic piece of writing. The line, it's understanding that makes people like us tolerate a person like yourself. And it's just a perfect dig, a subtle dig, but the guy takes it as a compliment because he doesn't really get it.
Because he's so snooty.
Yeah. And that line, it just, whenever you deal with someone who's, annoying or rough or just makes your life hell, like I think of that line and just think, it's understanding that makes people like me deal with that person. And again, it's Ferris. It's the Ferris in me that I just love that line so much. And it's perfectly delivered, played, and written. Awesome.
I think we all would really love to just get away with a dig like that sometimes. We definitely run into the waiters of the world like that every now and then. I was watching all this time. There's no way. I was sitting there like, there's no way the phone trick's gonna work twice, and it did. And then like it's perfect like built like stepping stone comedy where not only does he use the same joke, Cameron uses the exact same voice.
Yep,
it's brilliant.
It's awesome.
What was another scene I wanted to talk about? What do you think of the museum scene?
Yeah, it's a little different. Like I think maybe Hughes was sitting there going, let's add a little artsiness to this because it feels too slapstick. He wanted to add some seriousness, and I love the scene when they're all looking at art, and he kind of like zooms into some of the paintings, and Sloane and Ferris holding hands, and the kid line walking through the museum, and it just adds a softness to it, I think, and maybe a moment of reflection. And I think I think that's right around the time where he asked Sloane if they want to get married today, and Cameron's like, that's crazy, but he's just trying to think of things to do, and I think those scenes are like right next to each other, and it just adds a touch of seriousness to what's mostly a rollicking time.
Yeah, a little slow moment, time to digest everything.
Yeah, kind of catch your breath and think about things.
That part where Cameron, like, it goes back and forth, like you see his face, and then like we're almost like into the we're into the threads of the canvas. I forget what the name of that painting is. And
I think it focuses on a kid too.
Right.
And I think Cameron's probably thinking of, himself and how he's part of that painting. I'm sure that anyone who's a student of art can really break that down and how that's really great, but we all kind of get the gist.
Yeah, and I'm sure students of arts are going to comment on this and be like, you don't know what that painting's called? I'm sorry. I know. I've seen it in movies tons of times. It's a famous painting. But...
I had to sit with a guy who hadn't seen Home Alone. Cut me some slack here.
I can't give you that much slack for that. It was never my favorite back in the day, but I do appreciate it for what it is.
I will check it out. I
okay,
promise.
Good. And then you're going to be back next year for Home Alone Matters.
Maybe a holiday show.
Yeah. We did talk a little about like John Hughes' like camera work and stuff. I wanted to throw two scenes out at you, and it's one where they've just dropped the car off at the garage, right? And so they're walking this way, and like everything's fine. And then very perfectly comedically timed, you see the car go out, and the attendants are going for a joyride in it.
Right. Two great scenes right before it. And after that, he says, I'm going to give him a $5 so he takes care of it.
Oh, my God.
As cameras where they're downtown Chicago, and Ferris is flashing $5 bills, which even in the 80s is probably a joke to, a tenant. And then after that scene, maybe a few minutes later, they show the car going over a hill to the, and I think it's the Star Wars.
It's the Star Wars theme.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable.
It's
awesome.
Crazy.
And he looked like Lando and another guy.
And then, like, he asked the guy if he speaks English.
What country do you think this is?
I know. And then, like, I'm just like, he does. He's just messing with Ferris. And then, what? I love the whole, like, the backstory of those two guys. I'd like to see their day off at some point.
Their joyride.
Yeah.
Maybe a film short on that.
It'd be a good film short. We're kickstarting it right now. And then,
yeah, I love that line. The way he said it too, like, what country do you think this is?
Like, because you could see, like, he takes a beat in his head, like, okay, time to mess with this kid.
Yeah, right.
And then we should talk about the car for a while, because the car is such an important part of the movie. I feel like, were you a big car kid?
Never.
So the Ferrari meant nothing to you?
No.
Okay, me neither.
Still not.
All right, good. I felt like we had to spend a lot of time on that. But
I do love how he says, he describes it like it's so choice. Yeah. If you have the means, I highly recommend getting one.
Oh my God.
Like someone's sitting there watching, goes, you know what? Ferris is right. I'm going to go out and buy a Ferrari today.
What also drives me crazy is he doesn't have a car, but he can drive this Ferrari perfectly. We assume he has his license because he asked for a car. He got a computer instead. And I'm just like, I've been driving for years, and I know a Ferrari doesn't handle the same way as like a Ford Taurus.
Right.
So how is this guy handling this so perfectly?
Another great thing about that scene is the music.
That is, I definitely wanted to talk about the music, because that's the Ferris Bueller theme, right? Like, you hear that anywhere, you automatically think Ferris Bueller. and obviously Twist and Shout, and then even Dankeschön. Like so much of the music has become synonymous with this film.
Another iconic thing is Ben Stein in the classroom scene. Bueller, Bueller. I mean, how many times in life are you like sitting and talking to someone going, Bueller?
Yep.
Like, come on now.
Mm-hmm. I had a lot of college professors throw that one out at me. And I was kind of embarrassed when people were just like staring at him blankly. I'm like, guys, come on. You don't know what he's doing? It was like Captain America. Like, I understood that reference. And I do love the part where, like, again, Matthew Broderick, he's like saying, like, I'm so disappointed in Cameron. $20 says he's sitting in his car right now deciding whether to go. And then, like, perfectly smash cut to Cameron, like,
I'll go.
Yeah,
I'll go. He'll keep calling me.
He'll keep calling me. And
then he like gets up to leave, and then you see him in the back of the car, like jumping up and down, screaming, then comes back into the car. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and I think we've all been there where we're like, I'm not going to go. And then like we're wrestling with ourselves to decide whether to take the bullet or take the jump, or I don't know what metaphor I'm trying to say right now. It's early. I haven't had a lot of coffee. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Any favorite fun facts from the film you want to share with the audience?
Not really. I was looking at the doing a little background that it only made what domestically. It wasn't even that much.
No, it wasn't I don't think it was a huge box office draw.
So it's become more of a cult classic, right?
Right. Yeah.
I thought for sure. What did it say? I can't even read it. What is the box office USA gross? You have that?
I do not have that. No.
It's like I can't read it. Okay. Because I think I have my wrong contacts in.
Okay, 69 million.
69 million. That's nothing.
That's not a lot.
Not at all.
And did you see? I don't know if you had the budget there.
No, does it say?
No, don't see the budget. But that's not a lot by today's standards.
No, and even by that standard, so it probably did okay. I also saw that Matthew Broderick was nominated for a Golden Globe in '87, but Best Actor, but didn't win, just nominated.
Yeah.
But your question was things that, fun facts about the movie. No, not really. I mean, the one you said, I didn't even know about the Charlie Sheen part. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I learned this a lot last night because, like you, I rented it on Amazon, and sometimes you see, like, if you click the screen, there are trivia facts on the side. It's a little annoying when you're just trying to watch the movie, but I was like, oh, was like a background. He had a whole backstory and stuff. And then with Ben Stein, I didn't know this about Ben Stein. He actually had a degree in economics. So, like, he's actually giving, like, a real lecture in that class.
DOO economics.
Yeah. And another thing perfectly about, like, again, John Hughes capturing that story, all the close-ups of the students, like, yeah, that's...
The one drooling on the desk, and he talks about the Laffer curve, and the great line about the girl saying, Ferris passed out at 31 Flavors last night. Thank you, Simone. Like, the whole... Oh, so well done.
Yeah, it's great. Again, and the rumors that just spur out of control in this movie, like, to somehow we're a point where Save Ferris ends up on a water tower.
Yeah, and that he's on that payphone, and those guys. Someone said to Jeannie Bueller, his sister. No. Someone said to his sister that if Ferris dies, he's donating his eyes to Stevie Wonder. Oh my God! Like, yeah, the rumors and the Save Ferris. Is that where that punk band? Is that where they got that name, Save Ferris, from the movie?
I think so.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine anywhere else where they would get it from.
Right.
But this is definitely, I think, now that we're talking about, like, all the rumors and stuff, and then, like, you see T-shirts with Save Ferris on it, you see the water tower. This is definitely, like, one of the more, I was going to say cartoony, but I guess animated John Hughes films. Next to Home Alone, but, you know.
I wouldn't know about that.
You wouldn't know. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's sort of, well, obviously Ferris Bueller sort of lived on in all these pop culture references and the comedy throughout time. Like, I can remember, like, a Domino's commercial where a guy was running through the backyards to pick up his pizza with that music, and then obviously the song, like, I guess I have to do it in the mic. Chicka chicka. Man, maybe we should just end it right there.
And the Cubs game where they go, hey, batter, swing,
right?
batter.
Mm-hmm. That's another perfect like camera trick where like you see on the screen Ferris and Cameron are at the game, and Rooney's like right there, and like Rooney just turned to the right, and you got your man.
Oh,
and then
right.
like perfectly timed, like he turns and the camera cuts, and I'm just like, how many takes did that take? 'Cause that would be incredibly frustrating to get right, I think.
Yep.
So we sort of talked about this in the beginning, but what do you think some of the more important messages or themes of the film are?
I think along with the make the most of every day, the big line. I think also it's I think it's a lesson in friendship. I think that Ferris genuinely cares about Cameron, and I think Sloane too definitely has they're a crew. She definitely has a soft spot for Cameron because when Ferris is off on the parade float, it's Cameron and Sloane arm in arm walking down the side of the road talking about how neither of them really want to go to college, and what do you want to do next year? And they're both like, I don't want to do anything. And and the great line where she goes, "What do you think?" Cameron says, "What do you think Ferris?" Sloane says, "What do you think Ferris will do?" And Cameron says something like, "He'll be a fry cook on Venus" or something like that. Like, but they were just both talking about how they don't want to do anything in life. They're just kind of like. But again, you just the wonder and value of friendship and good friends and caring for someone, and again, there's real concern in Sloane's face when Cameron's catatonic on the side of the pool, and they're trying to get him to snap out of it, and it just just trying to get Cameron out of his shell, just all of that, just the value of friendship, I guess.
Yeah, this is a new question. I'm sorry, this isn't on the sheet.
That's all right.
It came to me, and I don't know what, I'm like sort of having this moment in my head, like, why didn't I ever ask anyone this before? Obviously, you've watched this film many times. Like, do you remember, like, showing this film to, like, someone for the first time? Do you remember, like, who you've watched this film the most with? And, like, how, like, the audience, I'll say, like, your audience perspective changed depending on who you watched it with?
I'm sure there are people that I've watched it with for the first time. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. And I don't really like to go here, but this is also my ex-wife's favorite film, and she would constantly quote it. And I loved it before all of that, but it does make me think of her and her reaction to it and how she would, constantly quote the movie. And I think I do it too. And I think a lot of people in life quote this movie all the time with Fry, and just, Sausage King of Chicago and all that stuff. It's just a very quotable, memorable movie that affects everyone in different ways, but it definitely touches your inner adolescent. And I think it brings us all back to the time when we were that age and what it felt like to have that teenage angst and rebellion and not want to go to school and do things fun. And
right.
I think that's where it touches us, and that's why I think what that Hughes was so skilled at was just hitting those chords that resonate with everyone. Yeah.
That sort of leads into my next question, and we sort of covered it, but I did want to go a slightly different tangent. I know because you and I, we're tight Facebook friends, and we follow each other on Instagram. You have 2 young nieces. Would you ever show Ferris Bueller to them?
Not today, but I think when they got older, I would. I would. I definitely would when they're, teenagers, because it's fun. It's a funny movie, and there are a lot of good lessons and good takeaways from it. Again, I've got so many that I think of all the time. I definitely would.
Yeah. As long as you preface it with stay in school.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe after they graduated high school.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect time to show it.
Right.
Because then they're like, I could have done that?
Right.
Like, no, you couldn't have. Because I don't have a Ferrari you can steal.
Yeah, right. Or hopefully your friends don't.
We're sort of reaching the end of our time, but just to bring it full circle, you sort of already touched on this. What do you think allows this film to stand the test of time? Like, what allows it to keep connecting with audiences?
I think it's how funny it is, how relatable it is to people and of all ages. Mm-hmm. You can relate to Ferris, as we've all been there. You can relate to even the parents, Katie Bueller, like Ed Rooney calls up Katie at work and Mrs. Bueller at work, and she's like, "Oh, I totally forgot to call. Ferris is homesick," and even the dad, calls him to check on him, and Ferris says, "All this talking has made me kind of lightheaded, even though they've been on the phone
they've been
for
on the phone
2 minutes."
For 2 seconds.
So he's like, "Hey, take a hot bath and wrap a hot towel on your head." Mm-hmm. Like every character feels like it's relatable, and it's so relatable, and I think that's why it stands the test of time. And I think it's funny as heck. Like it's so well written, and the lines are so great, and it makes you feel good too. The twist and shout scene,
right.
And it's awesome.
It's one of those quintessential feel good movies. Absolutely. And we've approached the end of my questions, but I always throw this last one out. Why does Ferris Bueller's Day Off matter to you?
I think it's the lessons that I've learned from it, as we've talked about, and that I've taken with me, and that again, to this day, I still think about how life moves pretty fast and make the most of every day. And I'm always trying to think of that. And any decision, any crossroad that you come to, you say you can go one way, or you can go another way. And I kind of think, what would Ferris do? And as long as I was abiding by the laws of the land, I could continue. But again, that's such a it's one of the most important lessons in life is how precious our time is, and how you have to enjoy every moment and live every moment, and again, tell people how you feel about them, because you don't know if it could be your last time to do that. Yeah,
I think that's even more important today than it was in 1986, especially when we're going through these crazy times still. This it's going to be almost 2 years now in a few weeks. So obviously, like, you got to stay safe. But, take that time. Enjoy life every day. And, just enjoy it, because never know what happens next.
Right.
Wow.
We learned this all from a high school trickster skipping school. I mean, that's the beauty of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Leave it to a juvenile delinquent to teach us about life.
Even juvenile delinquents can teach us lessons.
Yeah. Thank you, John Hughes. Wow.
Awesome.
Well, Mike, is there anything else about Ferris Bueller you want to share with the audiences? We're approaching the end of our time now.
No, I think we've covered a lot of it, and most of it, and I'm sure I'll think of something on the way home. But I think we've touched on all the hot spots and big ones.
Did you ever watch the television series?
No.
Okay, I didn't even know it existed until a few years ago. And then Jennifer Aniston was Jeannie for like one episode, and then like she got replaced like right after, because a little show called Friends was starting.
Heard of that one?
Yeah. I don't know what happened to it. I think it kind of floundered after a few seasons.
I don't know. It doesn't sound like very good.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to pivot away from that.
Nice.
Bad. It's bad.
Nicely done.
Well, Mike, this was great. Thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. This was a great conversation, and I hope you come back.
Absolutely. I'd love to. And thank you for having me. I love movies and talking about movies, and I've listened to your podcasts. And it's a great idea for a podcast, and it's fun, and it gets you to think about stuff. And I'd love to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you. And I'm very happy to hear you're coming back with your podcast next week.
I am.
Can you give me a little tease of what's on deck?
Yeah, the Pod Where It Happens is going to end a probably 4 or 5 month hiatus. I'm going to do a show with my friend Jess on reality television.
Nice.
And we're going to talk about different reality shows. And the funny thing about this is the only reality show I watch is The Bachelor and Bachelorette.
Do you do like the
pools?
Yeah, do you do the pools?
I do not. And she told me that's the only one she doesn't watch. So I think we'll make a good pair there.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of you. I'm a big Ted Lasso junkie now. I think you need to do another episode on season 2, because season 2 was just. I mean, I'm not pitching shows to you right now, but yeah. And then the last one you did was about Tom Brady's return to New England.
Yep.
And now here we are, and the man is retiring. And I was listening to it yesterday, and you were like, Tom's returned to New England for probably the last time. And I was like, what did Mike know? I was like, did you talked to Mike Girardi for an hour and a half? What did he tell you?
He was great. No, it was the way the schedule lined up. Even if Tom played the next 2 or 3 years, they wouldn't come to New England as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It just, the schedule rotates, and I'm kind of an NFL nerd, so I know that this would have been the last time that, unless if he played like 5 or 6 years, that the Bucs would be back here.
What did you think of? We're not even talking about movies that matter anymore. What did you think about the ads with the Adele breakup music? Did you see any of those?
I did not.
They were hyping up this game like Tom is like the ex-lover of New England coming back, and they're playing like "Hello" by Adele in the ads. Like, it was so heavily dramatized. Like it was comical, but at the same time, I'm like I don't want to admit it, but I was getting chills.
Yeah, I didn't. I hosted a bunch of people for a Super Bowl party, and I didn't really get to watch much of the game or the commercials just because I was trying to play happy homemaker host. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, sorry, I put my production coordinator hat back on there for a second, but that's my job.
That's all right.
I got to keep the creative juices flowing.
There you go.
But I'm really excited that the pod, Where It Happens, is coming back.
Me too.
Folks, please give it a listen. You can find it and Movies That Matter and all the other great podcasts produced here at Burlington Cable Access right on our website at bcattv.org. Mike, thanks again so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Yep. And you are coming back. Like, it's
Absolutely.
pretty much guaranteed. Folks, happy to be back in the studio. Hopefully we'll be back again soon. If you want to get in touch with me, you can find me on Instagram or Gmail at Movies That Matter Pod, or you can find me on Twitter at Movies That Matter, just minus the T after the second T in that, because Movies That Matter was taken, so now I have to like sort of say Movies That Matter like I was with the Tommy Wiseau type accent. It's Movies That Matter on Twitter. This is probably the funniest episode we've done.
There you go.
And just so everyone knows, Home Alone is now streaming on Disney Plus. I kid because I love you, folks. Folks, the world is a crazy place right now. Don't forget to love each other, and when things get hard, just lose yourself in your favorite movie or TV show. Like I always say, entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. This has been Movies That Matter. I'm your host, Chris Flaherty. We'll see you next time.